Hello and welcome back to everyone this afternoon for today's Realty Talk. And we are excited today because we have a team here with us today. We appreciate all of you all coming out and taking your time out and joining us in person and on Zoom. But I want to go ahead and get started. We have today with us Glennis Thomas of Velocity Title, as well as Nicole. I don't know Nicole's last name, or Latham. Yeah, Latham, Nicole and Cheryl. Yeah, the other day when I was at Velocity, Nicole was powdering her nose. So I didn't. Yeah. So yes, but we are happy to have them here, and I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to turn it, Glennis. I'm going to turn it over to you. I'll go ahead and I will share. If you want, I will share. Okay. Oh, okay. So you don't want to see it right now. Okay, well, you want to just leave it up there like that? Okay.
Cheryl's gonna go over everything with us, and I'm gonna interact with you guys too while she explains what we do. But when you gather, she's gonna show you a way you can do the seller net sheet on your own, but you can always call me and I'll do it for you, or one of them will always be happy to help you. But say you're somewhere and you can't get in touch with one of us, we have a resource where you can do it right on our website. So Cheryl is gonna walk us all through it, and then
hello, everyone. So I apologize if some of this information sounds very elementary to you, because I'm sure you're very experienced in a lot of what I'm going to say. You're going to say, I already know that. But we felt it was really important for you to understand that even the simplest questions are really vital in preparing your net sheet in order for it to be accurate. So if you're forgetting to ask the right questions of your client, you might not have all of the information that you really need for your estimate. You know, with the market the way it is right now, I'm sure you know, everyone is more stressed about money. You know, buyers, sellers, they're all extremely stressed about everything. And so they really want to know, how much am I going to get if I sell my house? And they really want that number. So it's important for you to get as much information from the client when you meet with them right from the very beginning. The little sheet we worked up, again, is very elementary, but it's just to help remind you of everything you need to be asking when you sit and meet with that seller for the first time. One of the most important things you need to be asked or checking is making sure that you have all your owners present. That's a simple thing to do. You all, I guess, use the MRIS to get you want to make sure the person you're meeting with, their name matches the name that's on title. If it doesn't match, there's questions that have to be asked. Did someone pass away? You know, are somebody just not present? Are they out of state? Or are they, you know, where are they? You have to have all sellers. That's common or common sense. But second most important thing we think is asking if the seller has had a forbearance or a modification on their loan. We're finding that the payoff statements that we get from the lenders do not always include the forbearance amount. So sometimes it's tied to a separate loan. They've created a separate loan. Now that's not always. Sometimes it is on your payoff statement, but the mortgage statement. So I would ask the seller, do they have a current mortgage statement? So when you're listing it, you know their loan is either delinquent or their current, you know, as of the date you're meeting with them. But the mortgage statement should reflect on it somewhere if they had a forbearance. And if they had a forbearance, that figure, the seller has forgotten about it. They're looking at the balance of their loan on their statement, and they forgot they got that $30,000 forbearance. So we've had so many sellers that are shocked when they see their payoff amount that that's not what they owe. So it's, you know, if you can explain to them right at your first meeting, did you go through a forbearance? Do you have any paperwork for that? And just make sure you're adding that to the payoff or the mortgage balance, because they're not added in on that mortgage statement. When they give a forbearance, they've kicked it to the end of the loan and it's not factored into their monthly statement anymore, okay? So that's real important if they've gone through a forbearance, that you make some note of that and you're adding it back into your calculations. HOAs, one of the biggest thing about homeowners associations is a lot of these communities, especially if it's condominium, they'll have more than one association. So you may have two, might have three. We've had some that have had three. It's crazy. Each one of those associations may require a resale package. So if you have a seller that says they have two associations, estimate two resale packages for on their net sheet. I mean, it's so much better. They'll take this information so much easier if it's given to them right at the beginning of the process. If their number goes down, you're their hero. But if it goes up, you're their enemy. So, you know, it's better to put as much on that net sheet in the beginning of possible expenses that they're going to be hit with, you know, so that you're giving them an accurate net or a reasonable figure that they're going to get at settlement. Also on homeowners. So these HOAs or the like HomeWise docs where you got to get the resale packages and stuff, they have made it so we can't use the resale demand statement that's in the resale package for closing. We used to be able to use those. Well, now they've done something where the title company has a login and we can only request a payoff letter or a resale demand statement, but it's one that's specifically for the title company or attorney doing the closing. And it has all of the information we need for settlement. So we have to order that statement, but the seller also has to provide the resale package, obviously. So there's two sets of fees though that you want to be estimating on your net for the seller. So on the back of your seller net worksheet, we kind of did some basic fees that we recommend you would quote. So for the demand statement we get, it's never more than $200, but it's better to estimate high. And if it comes in 100 or 75 or 150, it's going to be less than what you estimated. And if there's more than one association, double those figures to match the number of associations that you have. Okay. Another thing, I think we all know Maryland resident status. So you definitely want to be asking your sellers, you know, if they are a Maryland resident. If they're not, they may be subject to Maryland withholding tax. And if they are, they should apply as soon as possible after you've listed that property for the exemption from the state of Maryland. So it could be a partial exemption. It could be a full exemption. The state will actually calculate the exact amount of withholding tax that should be charged at settlement if the seller applies in time. Now, we have to be a part of that process because they're going to need a settlement sheet to submit with that application. So we can help you with that. So you have a seller, you find out they're not a Maryland resident and that this tax will apply. Work with us, we'll get you an estimated settlement sheet to get to the seller to send with that application to the state of Maryland. Yes, thank you. 21 days for that to be processed. So that's why it's important that you have that started as early in the process as possible so we get the form from the state of Maryland. And they're pretty good. They're pretty good about that 21-day mark. I mean, they really are. We usually get them in right at the 21-day mark. Might be a day or two off, but it's pretty close to that. Yes.
Is there anything, or is there anything, that mortgage company over here, doesn't then, okay, if they have a second, or if they have a they pertain to that.
Okay, so he's asking if there's anything special, if there's a second mortgage or a HELOC.
Right.
So the only thing I would say, second mortgage is going to be the same as if it's a first mortgage. You're still going to, get a statement and use that figure in your net. If they have a HELOC, you might advise them to not draw on it, if they're preparing for settlement. Because if they're drawing on it and we've requested a payoff statement, it might not have that last draw they just took, if they, so that's probably the only thing I can think of. Can you think of anything to add?
No, that's for the people also, people have a mortgage, like their first mortgage, and they'll have a second one, you'll be like, oh, that's a home equity line. I didn't think about that. You still need to know that. Because that's still something that has to be paid off. Because a lot of people don't realize that that's recorded too when you get it. And just because it has like different names, like he said, a HELOC, some people say a home equity, some people say second mortgage, those are still things you need to know. Another thing that you need to get a payoff is these solar panels, like these UCC filings that people do for work that they have done on their houses. So when we're finishing up the CD or after we run the title, those are all things that have to be factored into that. So you might want to ask your seller too, do you have anything else that needs to be paid? You know, like anything that they can think of that needs to, yeah, anything like that.
Any types of liens, judgments. I kind of have some of those notes on here at the end, but on the solar panels, so since she brought those up, solar panels, it's important that you ask the seller if they are leased or if they purchased them. So if they leased the solar panels, the process is pretty automatic. These solar panel companies have this down to a science. So the buyer applies online the seller has to start the process to transfer the solar panels to the buyer. The buyer logs in and does an application, and it's a soft credit, I'm told. They don't pull credit, so it doesn't affect their loan. And then they do an electronic signature to sign an assumption agreement of that lease. And the solar panel company provides us with the release of the seller's lien on the property. They go and record a new lien in the buyer's name after settlement is done. So nothing is done on, there's no charges, no fees. We just have to make sure all that gets done. And that, yes. I think that's why I'm bringing this up, Darlene, because your client bought them, right? And had a loan. So, and it was a personal loan. So, and since there was no negotiations, I suppose, you can negotiate anything. You could have had the buyer take over that loan, that might have affected. But I mean, if there is a loan on those solar panels, then the seller is going to have to pay that off at settlement. I mean, it's got to be paid off. They can't be, there will be a lien recorded, but it's not for a lease. It's going to be like a deed of trust, but it's a loan that the seller got for the solar panels. So it could still be a UCC financing statement, but it's not a lease. It's for what they call chattels. So the solar panels are secured by that company, and if it's not paid off, they could come and pull those solar panels off the roof, and now they've done damage to the roof, and the buyer going to sue somebody, and so it's important that you ask, if they're leased or if they have a loan on them. Right. Liens and judgments, same kind of thing. So you want to ask them, do you have any other liens, judgments, any kind of notices? Remind them, these things are going to come up in our title search. There's no point in trying to hide it. Just give you all the information. What did Ann say? We should sell these people? Know your seller. Know your seller. It's really important to know your seller and know what's going on and ask them all these questions. Let's see, water. So if it's on public water, you want to factor in a water escrow, and you might want to ask the seller what their balance is on their water bill. We just had one, we got a $4,000 water bill. So, I mean, it happens. It was a tenant account, but they have two accounts if there was a tenant in the property at any point in the past. So it's good to know anything you can get from them about the water, who it's with, what their balance is, because we're going to hold an escrow based on whatever their average usage is. So if you've got 8 people living in a house and their bill is $400 a month, we're going to be holding a $500 escrow. If it's one person and their average bill is $65 a month, we might hold a $150. You know what I mean? It's going to be a lot less. It's just going to be based on whatever their usage is. Let's see. The other thing I had on here, transfer and recordation taxes. So when we jump in and look at the quotes, it automatically splits the transfer and recordation taxes between buyer and seller. So if you're using our quoting system and not one of us to do it for you, it's going to quote it as if they're split 50-50. So if they're not split, you'll have to manually double the tax figure that's in there or take it all out depending on who's paying those taxes. I checked that before I left to see if there was a way you could pick who's paying them, and on this program you can't. So I'm sorry. Yep. Okay, so ask the seller up front, are you if they're in town, are you going to be coming to settlement? Are you going to prefer a remote notary or a mobile notary come to them? So they do have a lot of options nowadays. So if they're coming to settlement, you don't need to know anything more. Perfect. If they do not want to come to settlement, they want to do a seller is the only one that can do a remote notary or a cash buyer. So that's the remote online notary. So if the seller wants to do a RON, the fee for the added fee for that is $100. And so we have those, again, we have those fees listed on the back. So if you know they want to do one, you can just stick that in on your estimate. If they want a mobile notary, so you have a seller that's in Tennessee and they're really not tech savvy and don't want to do this online stuff, we can send a notary to them. And the fee for that is $175. They also might have given someone a power of attorney. So if they're using a power of attorney, we're going to need the original power of attorney at settlement to record. So you want to make sure the seller has the original in their possession. We also need a copy of it as soon as possible to make sure that it meets Maryland requirements for powers of attorney. If not, we can prepare a new one if for some reason the power of attorney is not acceptable by the underwriter and our attorney charges $100, Glenn, to prepare the power of attorney. Most of the time, a lot of these sellers have them ahead of time already, so we'll just review it and get it approved. There is a fee for recording the power of attorney as well, which again, if you've got some of these added things into your case, you want to factor some of those costs in on your net sheet if you can, you know. Anything else? Did I miss anything else? Okay. Yep. So you've met with your seller and you filled out your little sheet and you made all your notes and you got all these dollar figures written all over this thing. Then all you do is come in and log in. Why don't you come over here and drive, Nikki? I don't have a laptop at home and I'm not good with this mouse, the little pad. I have a desktop. So do you all, anyone use our Qualia Connect portal? Do you all log in? Thank you, thank you. It's super easy. There's really not anything that's too difficult. It keeps all of your clients' information safe and secure. We really try to encourage clients to use it. Some people are a little leery and don't like the idea, but this is the state. If they log in, yes. Oh, okay.
Can you give us your
Yes, yes.
VelocityTitle.com.
Yep. So when you get in, when you go to velocitytitle.com, you're going to get, did you already click on the thing on the home page? This is the home page.
This is the home page. And down here in the bottom right corner, there's the yellow house. And it did originally say get a quick quote, and then it goes away after a little while. So you click on that. And this is where you can access your closings. The get a quick quote here will only do buyer estimates without logging in. So unfortunately, to do a seller estimate, you're going to have to log in over here.
But you want to go ahead and have the power to anyway.
Yes.
That's the other thing. So that's what we were saying. If you log in, create your login. Every file you close with us, you'll be able to log in day or night, 4 hours a day, 7 days a week. You can log in. You can see your signed altas, your settlement sheets if you need one. You can see, I don't know if a survey was done on, there's certain documents you have access to. If there was a termite inspection, you'll have access to those kind of things. There'll be all kinds of documents in there that you'll be able to see and get on your own. You download them right to your computer. So having a login on this portal is I think beneficial to you.
Well, it's beneficial too, because when you guys open up the file, there's tasks that you have to complete to help them finish the file. So if you already have an account to active and you've been using it, it's easy.
And you're just going to log in and use that same login.
I know. You said again that you have to log in again separately for the.
No, once you can do everything in this portal. Once you log in and your password, you can log in to get your quotes. You can once you log in, you can get a quote. You can look at your files. You can. So we'll show you once we log in.
Everything will be in Qualia once you log in.
Once you
You can
log
see
in.
all of your open files, all of your closed files. You can get quotes. You can order new files, and we'll show you some of those things once we actually get in here. Qualia does have two-factor authentication to keep everything safe.
Okay. 559921.
Okay.
Okay, so here we are. So I personally don't have many files. We kind of played with one. Because I work there, I'm not,
We have a
customer-
separate
right, we
portal
have a separate-
technically.
So we logged me in and we kind of made a test file for me so that you could see. So if I had 5 cases that I had processed through Velocity, they would all be listed here. Any file that you're named on.
Right, so these are your orders. These are the open orders here. We have the closed, canceled, and all of your orders. So depending on what you're looking for, if you're looking for, oh, I really need to get a settlement statement from a file that closed last week, it might be in the closed section. So this is a different file than the one in the open. So we have one open and one closed. And then if you go to the all, you'll see. So that's where you see your,
And then if you wanted documents on the closed file, you would click on the file, I think, right? Is that what you do?
yeah, but we're gonna go into the open one.
So you click. And it brings you to your. All this thing, your land.
This is
I
the-
know it's. This morning, I haven't done them yet.
right. So this is the overview. This is your overview of your file. You can see what status we're currently in. This one is in processing. Depending on what we're still doing on the file, it'll move into closing prep, closing date, post-closing, who your people are, all sorts of stuff on this main page. If you're looking for your tasks, you'll go over to your task section. This is where you'll see all of your tasks.
So I put it in the purchaser, I think, on this file, maybe a seller, I can't remember, but it wants my ID, it wants me to confirm some personal information, let them know if there's a homeowners association on my property, so this would be a seller task, so they'll be providing all that.
Right. You'll have
They
your
won't
own
always provide
agent
the right
tasks.
information, so you'll have similar questions that ask the same thing, so.
You'll just click on them and you'll complete them. Is there a homeowners association? No, and submit. And then that task is complete. So now you have 4 instead of 5. The inbox is where you'll see,
Messages.
inbox is where you'll see any messages from us.
So we can email each other through that if you wanted to, but those messages stay in Qualia and they're secure. You get an email in your inbox that tells you there's a message from Qualia and you log in to get it. That's another, the buyers and sellers like to communicate through those, through that inbox.
Also, they're part of this.
Yeah, they should see this similar
Yeah.
screen.
That's what first, I think the title company, you all set those files up, you send them an initial
We
email
send them an
to them,
email.
and yes, and then it's attached to our. site.
Exactly. Yep. Mhm.
But are you saying the buyer and with each other?
Not with each
Not
other,
buyer and seller,
not
no.
each other.
Mm-mm.
I did not do it.
No.
No,
I believe,
no, and no one's personal information is accessible in here. You wouldn't be able to
Right.
see anyone's phone numbers, email addresses even, none of that's accessible.
right. You should only be able to see like your information and not everyone's information.
Right.
Depending on who you are. If you're a listing agent, obviously you'll be able to see the seller's information. And then you can go over to the documents where you'll see any documents that we might have sent you. After closing, we'll send you a settlement statement. It'll always be available in Qualia for you to go back to.
Yeah, I was listening on this driving, but is this a separate app or?
This is this is on our,
This
Our
is our
website.
portal.
it's the
Yeah,
portal we use. The other title company, I'm gonna say this, if you're unlucky enough to have another title company do your settlement, and they happen to use Qualia, when you log in, you're gonna see those cases as well.
Mhm.
You'll see
Right.
any
You'll see
case
all
you're tied to
Qualia
that is in Qualia.
So once you log onto the Velocity website, you can like save it as one of your favorites. That way you can just click it right every time you go on and you can save the quality.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so over here in the, when you go back to your main Qualia, here in the open status, if you have multiple, you'll see where it says settlement agency velocity, settlement agency, you know, whatever other title company, and you'll see which title companies are doing, if you're doing other Qualia files with other companies. It shouldn't, but it does.
Yeah, what? Post closing is once settlement is all done. So
We're talking about right here.
I think we're talking about on the other screen.
Oh, on the other
So
screen.
we have one title in process, and then I was just wanting to zero that invoice close.
Okay, so I don't have any that are in post closing yet because none of these files have made it to closing. Actually, what's the one that's closed, Nikki?
This one is, I think, just fully closed. You see the stage says closed.
Oh, gotcha.
It's
So
no longer in post closing. It's recorded. Policies are
this
done. It's
file,
done
do you see
completely.
this? This is the file where we represented the seller only. And Bay Title represented the buyer. We just figured this out today when we logged into mine. I'm like, what was that? But we only see, it's not our file number and we didn't have this address in our system. But I was listed in their file as the seller's attorney. They put my name in as a seller attorney, as a contact. So now I'm tied to their file because I'm listed as a contact.
Mhm.
So you are listed as a contact on anyone else's file that uses Qualia. When you log in, you'll see those files.
So you all are responsible for closing that out?
Yeah, well,
No.
no, Bay Title
Title.
is in control of this file. It's their
Mhm.
file. So they just haven't clicked the button in their system to move it to post closing.
It's probably actually past post closing to the point where
Oh,
there's
yeah.
there's nothing else needed on the file. It's fully finished.
Mhm.
That's in post closing. They might still be working on recording the documents. They also might be
Or
doing
recording
policies.
Could have an escrow still. Could have some
Those are
money
the
in
things that it
escrow.
could be, but it should be past the closing step. It should be closed. As in, everyone, all the
others
signing
have a lot.
happened. The only one that's
Yeah.
not-
Angela.
And they all think a lot. However, does that.
Well, it says post closing, so that's something with legacy. So that's not us.
I know, so we just wait for that. I don't know, I was representing this old.
Okay. So it doesn't matter that post closing function doesn't mean anything really to you or the seller. It's really.
Right, it doesn't mean anything specific. It's not something to worry about. But if there's something outstanding, if your seller, maybe they haven't received releases for their loans, that might be something to follow up with. But that's just more of a guide to you rather than, something
And it has to do with
concrete.
the reports that we can print. So we can print reports of files that are pending, files that are closed, or files that have made it to post closing. So it's just a different means of making.
Probably fine, nothing to worry about.
Because when I'm listening, what we're saying is that the buyer has their own title company and then you have a seller that has their own title company.
Well, that doesn't happen too often, and we don't like split settlements. We don't really like being a part of it, but we've had a couple of occasions where, we were asked to do it. And we did.
Usually, almost all of our closings, we do everything buyer and seller. So they would all be in Qualia, buyer, selling agent, listing agent, and seller would all get in Qualia and do the tasks in Qualia. But if for some reason, you have a closing with another title company, they might also use Qualia and their closing will be in Qualia. Right, their closing might be in Qualia. There's also, RamQuest or other things that you might, be able to get into. Not everyone uses Qualia, but if another title company does use Qualia, it'll be the same login and you'll see all of your Qualia orders. And if you're personally in a Qualia order, maybe you sold or bought a house, that could also be listed in here as well. Anything personally too. So yeah, so that's basically the
basics of
Qualia rundown.
Yeah.
But this is where you get a quote right here. Get a quote button.
So you're gonna click, get a quote and or seller net sheet. And this is where you're just gonna start filling in your information. So get the page in front of you, you're just gonna start typing and put in your address. We just picked that one, yeah. Okay, and just put in a low amount.
This might not seem important to you as listing agent doing a seller net sheet. But these the purchase price will determine your transfer and recordation tax calculation. So you can just estimate these, the loan amount. It's not really important, but it does want that information to do the quote. So if you don't know, just put it at whatever.
So just an FYI, if you would like a beautiful picture with your quote that you're gonna hand the seller, when you get your quote all done, you can upload a photo, your own photo. And then every time you print out one of the seller net sheets, you get one of those, that's what they look like, your picture will show up on it.
We should have done that before we printed it.
Well, what, with my picture?
Yeah.
I don't think I have my picture.
Anyway. So this is where you choose your provider. We have already set Velocity as our preferred provider in Qualia. We can send instructions on how to make us your preferred provider so that we're up at the top. Otherwise, you have to scroll
all the way down. Use Qualia. So when you first go in to do a quote, you see all the title companies and you get to pick one.
And of course, they're alphabetical.
In it's alphabetical, so we're all the way at the bottom. So if when you log into your account, if you go to your user settings, you can check Velocity as your default company, and then we will always show up at the top like this one is. So then you can just hit select rather than scrolling all, and it's a long way down to the bottom. I tried typing V to see if it would go jump to it, and it doesn't. So
Right.
so
you'll choose Velocity. This is where the cheat sheet that we kind of made helps. Do we have any payoffs? Yes, we do. Let's say we're gonna do Rocket Mortgage. You could put don't know. You could put bank mortgage, and choose. And if there's a second payoff, we were talking about the HELOCs. Maybe there's another payoff, and Navy Federal. They have a HELOC with Navy Federal, and that's $10,000. Add that there.
this is an important screen. Very important. Okay. So I think it's pretty much self. You got your listing commission, your selling commission, and then your additional fee here.
This is where if you're charging your $7.95 admin fee, we're going to add that there.
And the one thing about Qualia, I want to tell y'all that, because I always have to tell people, it's going to add the $7.95 into the commission. It's not going to make it like a separate line item. Because then, like, if I send it to someone, they'll say the $7.95 not on there, but it's in the commission.
Right. And once we actually make
Yeah.
it, once we have the file and we're doing the settlement statement, we will break it out as a separate line. If you for your estimate, if you are charging the additional commission, if you only had 2.5% and you are charging that's on the buyer side usually, but you can just add that as an additional fee to make sure it's included.
Yeah, there's another section once you're done here. So let's say in this one, the total commission
Was only 2.5.
Well, this would only work if Porterhouse is on the buyer side, not the listing side. But if you only got your 2.5, there's another section towards the end where you can add additional costs, and that's where I would add the additional commission or anything else that you want to add.
Right.
Yeah.
So I apologize.
Mhm. No, that's fine.
So as far, say for instance, if we go my house, is that what you're talking about?
If you were doing that, you would add, sorry, for anyone in the Zoom, we're talking about if it's the My House Quarter auctions. The online bidding, yeah. So that whatever fees might be included in that, you can add that as an additional fee. We'll get to the next screen where there's additional fees, and you can make any additional fees that might be applicable to your closing. So you'll put your commissions in however they're supposed to be, and anything additional you might need that doesn't really fit in this commission section, you can add. And name it whatever you'd like to name it.
So we can override the sales price here, right? If we needed to, just by typing a different figure here, like if it was a My House Porter, it might be 415. Or I'm sorry, it would be less that the commission is based on. It would be lower, 375 or something. Okay, so you see in a My House Porter situation, the commission is based on the high bid amount, not the final sales price, right? So in the beginning of this, you put in the sales price, so it's pulling the sales price here. to base the commission on it. But on a My House Porter file, you're gonna want to override that to be the bid amount. Because the commission is based on the bid amount.
And then in the added charges, you'll put that additional fees.
Right. Mhm.
Okay.
Okay. So obviously, we will help with, because those are a little bit difficult too. So, once we actually get the file and we're working on it, we can definitely split it out how it needs to be actually shown on the CD. So,
Yeah, because most of the time, he's selling that. He's trying to get us close to that number of things. But once you get further and get a contract and all that, that's when you're gonna get a real exact number for them, but at least they get some general idea of what they're working.
what they're
with.
looking at, yeah.
I just had a thing on that, I think, because that can happen when you're selling a house can sell well over what the amount is, so you really just give it an estimate of what they're expecting the house to be sold for.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Absolutely, yep.
Just a.
Mhm. Yep. That's the key, is that this is an estimate and you're only basing this off of the information you have at hand.
And you do have to emphasize the people that and the numbers, because some people are like, well, that's not what you told me. I told you it was an estimate.
Right.
Right.
Which is why it's so important to ask all these questions, because you'd hate to say, not ask, oh, what about your water? And then they're like, what's the water escrow? And well, okay. So,
I think everyone knows water is the only utility we pay at closing, right? Yeah. A lot of customers ask, well, what about my gas bill? Or what about my electric bill?
Yes.
Right.
So then you can add prorations, if you'd like to. You say, yes, we'd like to add a proration, maybe, we'll do, property taxes. This is where you can get.
They do, don't they? The annual tax amount. So you can plug in the annual figure here and it'll calculate the proration for you.
So we're gonna do,
And all of Maryland taxes are July 1 to June 30 on the fiscal year. If you didn't know that already.
and since we're in February, it should be paid.
Yeah, they
But
should
this
be
is
there.
where you choose whether or not it's paid. So if we're just into the tax billing cycle, if we're in July, maybe the buyer will pay and that's where you'll choose that. But for right now in February, most taxes are paid. So we're gonna say the seller is paid. And we're gonna do it in the additional items section. Again, this is where you're just trying to get it on the statement so that they can see it. So we'd suggest putting everything in the additional items tab. The taxes and recording fees is more for the recordation taxes for the deed of trust and deed. So, and maybe there's also an HOA. So we'll do a quarterly HOA, maybe it's $300. Yeah, go ahead.
Yes.
It's not a year yet. Xfinity. They run their deal with the property as opposed to customers. Might as well go to the house, they will get Xfinity. They can't get Xfinity to the previous person pays.
Oh, wow. So that is a great information, and you should always be asking those questions of your sellers so that you're not faced with that situation. Now, what I will say, the reason it's not on our sheet is because that would not be a title matter. But it would certainly be a problem for your purchaser or the seller, and yeah. So you definitely want to be asking that question as well.
I think it's
Good information.
Yeah, I think it's important on all of the utilities to make sure that they know they need to be reaching out to them either way.
Yeah.
We
Right.
do what we need to do with the water, but a lot of people don't realize. So, so I set up this quarterly HOA proration from January to March. Seller paid. We'll just do those two for now.
Yep.
This is where you can add anything additional. Oh, sorry.
I know I forgot one of these. The front foot benefit. Utility.
Yep, that is on our little sheet.
I might have skipped over it.
No, you didn't. I know, yeah.
What about special tax?
Special assessments, special.
Any sort of special assessments, yep, make sure you include those. I think we might have.
We have it on
Oh,
on
yeah,
the
we do.
little net sheet as one of the questions
Any
to
special
ask.
assessments as well.
If they have front foot, if they have any special assessments.
Yeah, those are all important things that will affect the bottom line.
That's what.
What's on here?
Yeah, you should be able to find that. So for these, yeah,
Owner had actually quit claiming deed.
Yeah,
And then
property.
it's property.
Oh,
That's
different.
Okay, so this is where, like I say, you're gonna be checking your MRIS when you're doing your listing to make sure the names match, right? We're gonna be doing the title search when you get your contract, so we're gonna pull the title then as well. We also do an update right before settlement. Know your seller. Know your seller. Make sure you're talking to your seller. Make sure they know they can't be doing things like that. Make sure they do. Of course, they do what they want.
It was actually.
It was. Senior, that's what it's taking it.
Oh, wow. Wow. Yeah. So the timing is what's key. Yeah, exactly. It's the timing. It just depends on when that deed gets recorded. I mean, hopefully, you know, it was before our title got done and we found it when we did our search, you know. Like I said, we order an update right before settlement, and if a deed shows up in that time, in that intervening period, we're notified of that. But again, hopefully it's before we've closed and given the seller his money, you know.
absolutely,
But
absolutely. So, yeah,
Mhm.
Because what they're saying is that the title insurance, always let the title settlement, but going forward, they're trying to say somebody come in and sell your house out.
You're talking about those lifelock.
The deed, yeah, the I was talking about.
mhm.
Just, yes or no, that's not true, it's not something deed. But I've had clients. But what about each trustee?
I'm sure it has happened. I'm sure it has happened. I'm sure that, you know, I can't say it's never happened. It
Sure,
would have
it's
to be,
gonna happen.
it's not common, but it
Sure, it's gonna
also,
happen.
they're not gonna take somebody's home that has a mortgage on it. But they can't. I think they do target people that the homes are free and clear. I think I've heard about it happening more out west than it's happened over here, but that doesn't mean it won't, you know, hit our market too.
I mean, I personally don't think that's something a person needs, but
Oh, as far as like,
you know,
buying that-
LifeLock sells that
no,
now.
right. Yeah, I don't think they need that.
I think
No,
that's
no.
just another.
That's a waste. Okay, what is that called though? He was asking if, what is that called though? It's not LifeLock, it's title. I've seen the commercials.
Where they try to say.
Title, yeah, where they're gonna steal your home by deeding it to someone else. So that is not necessary for a purchaser to buy that protection. It's really not, it's not anything they need. And I mean, what else? Let me- Right.
And title
And
insurance.
title
you have
insurance would cover
while
you
you
for
own the property, the entire time you own.
home title walk. That was, thank you. Thank you. I couldn't think of that name. But that's not something a purchaser needs, and they really don't need it if they're getting a mortgage. I mean, these thieves are not going to steal a house that has a mortgage on it because they can't do anything with it. It's got a mortgage. So,
So, so your title insurance protects you on anything that goes on, but we think that the difference is that the title insurance protection happens after you know about
So it depends on the policy that the purchaser gets. We recommend the enhanced policy, the Eagle policy, which is, it costs a little bit more. Most purchasers do get that policy. That policy does give them some protection for after their purchase. If they buy the basic policy, it only covers prior to their purchase, up to the date of the date the deed is recorded.
So that's like, so that's like a, kind of like a class maybe we could have
On title insurance
like
and,
that.
and the deed,
So
that
we might
enhanced
get
policy.
more into like what different
Yeah.
policies, 'cause that's something that you probably need to know. That's a.
Good information.
that's a
So
good, like,
you want to
that's a
protect
good
your,
one. Yeah.
Mhm.
So that you really understand why people.
why
need
they're
it.
getting the title insurance and what it
Yeah.
actually, there's a lot of things in title insurance that people don't even realize it covers. It doesn't just cover forgeries. You know, it covers a lot of other things, and that would be a great class.
Yeah,
It really would, because
there's-
there's a lot to
there's
talk
to
about,
learn.
title insurance. Sure, yeah, let's come back. Yes, all right.
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
I'm just gonna go ahead and finish this so that we can see what the actual, the net sheet looks like.
But yes, it's also, like, when you're gathering up information from people, it's also good to know, like, if they have any like IRS taxes or real estate taxes, anything that needs that would affect them transferring the property. Because, you know, like, a lot of people know, but they act surprised when you tell them, oh, you got a tax, and, oh, yeah, you know, 'cause you're making payments on it, so, you know. So anything like they.
and even if there's a payment plan, a lot of people think, oh, well, I'm on a payment plan. Why do I have to pay that off? They're selling your property, you got a lien on it, you gotta pay it off. Right.
So like, you know your seller, they got everything.
Everything, yep.
So here you can print it. If you hit share, you can email it to somebody. If you hit save, it's going to save this quote in your Qualia login, so you can come back and look at your estimate anytime. If you get a contract on it, you can come back in here and you just click that order button and we'll get started on the settlement.
Absolutely.
Is there any special information that have their families, their homes in the family trust?
So we do, you said any paperwork we need, if it's in a trust? Not necessarily for your net sheets or for your numbers, but we will need a copy of the trust agreement, and the trustees named on that trust are the ones that are typically required to sign. If one of the trustees has passed that's in that trust agreement, then it gets a little more complicated. So, you know, if you get it. It can't be. It can't be anonymous. We have to have a copy of the trust agreement that names them. So a lot of times a seller will say, you know, that's got personal information in it. You can't see my trust agreement. So we can take what's called a certification of trust, and that gives us, that gives us the details from the trust that we need. You know, who are the trustees? What's the name of the trust? When was it created? What powers they have? Do they have the authority to sell? You know, because I mean, we have to see all of that. So if they're uncomfortable with or if they have a big fat notebook, we don't want the notebook. It's called a certification of trust. Yes. And it's like a totally summarized version with just the details we need for the trust. And we have one of those documents too that we could send you if you wanted. If you have a seller that doesn't want to give you the trust, we can send you a certification of trust form, and they get that filled out. Yep. Okay, so how do you?
Any other questions about net sheets? Absolutely.
We were just saying, and this, like, if you couldn't reach me, or, which is. You always
I
do.
don't mind doing them for
But
you
know what I
either.
mean? You were out and you didn't have your.
It's a Sunday morning and we're all in
Well, you
church,
know,
and you're
do
on
it,
a
just
meeting,
call.
you're on an appointment and you need it.
All that information, that even if I call you, I didn't have to read off every piece of information for you.
I don't know,
Well,
that's-
okay, so if you just call, like, so a lot of times we'll just get an email that gives us some of the basics, some of those answers, not all of them. We do a little bit of research on our side anyway. I always go in and I pull the taxes. I will sometimes see if we did a settlement in that subdivision and see if there's a homeowners association, and I'll plug in some of those fees if I can figure that out. Obviously I won't add a warranty if you didn't tell me they're buying a warranty, and I won't add,
Well, sometimes when I do it for you, then I'll call Cheryl and I'll ask Cheryl to do like a more extensive one. Because then she'll gather up other information and she'll see other things that they won't go on this sheet. So then you'll get a better idea. So we're just trying to, this gives you like the general idea, but Cheryl's gonna get kind of close to the number.
Yeah, absolutely.
If there's no surprise.
I don't know how you open this up to
And
the
that's
people
why
for
we
them to ask
also
questions.
made the backside of this sheet too, so that, like Cheryl said, if you are meeting with someone on the weekend and we're not available, you can kind of have a quick cheat sheet of, okay, add a couple of these fees based on if there's an HOA, if they have solar panels, if they aren't going to be at closing. Because then you can get even closer without us.
But even
Our
if
settlement fees will automatically populate
Right,
onto
you're
your
out
estimate.
for what- anything like that, always reach out to me, and then I will tell you, yeah, you don't really need that, or you need this, what I mean, if you're unsure.
Yes, we are your people.
This is why
So-
we utilize it.
We are always available. Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 for us, but but yeah, we're always available to help you with anything. So certainly give us a call. So you wanted to open it up to the people for their questions, if they have questions, and I don't know how to do that.
We have the chat open.
Okay.
Does anyone in the Zoom have any questions regarding the net sheets or anything else that we've talked about today?
Hi, so if I'm gonna be honest, I suck at Zoom. I'll like go in and out. So a question that I do have is I don't really understand what a net sheet is. Like even when I was trying to follow what you guys are doing on the web and stuff, I'm still in pre-licensing, so I'm still trying to learn things. So I don't know what that is and the purpose of it.
Okay, so a seller net. Okay. All right, so a seller net sheet is really you just giving the seller an estimate of what they will net at closing based on, the price you're offering to put the property on the market for. I mean, you've met with your seller and you're going to list their home. Well, you're going to establish a price. That's going to be step one, right? You're going to establish the price. Then you're going to be asking the seller questions. Do you have a mortgage on your house? How much do you owe? So that's going to be subtracted from their proceeds. So that's what all of this was about, was to estimate what the seller's costs will be at closing based on the terms of the contract that you're going to put together for them. Whether they're going to offer a warranty to the purchaser or not. And if so, you're going to add that as an expense so that you can give them an idea of how much their proceeds will be when they go to closing.
That's what that figure, that 90,289.61 is. That's how much they'll be walking away with based on
the
this
estimate.
information in this estimate.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Anyone else? Okay. Awesome.
Okay. We good?
So after talking to everybody today, I think we touched on some stuff that we could probably do some more of the talking about. So
Absolutely.
we'll get with you and we'll come back and do
Mhm.
something else. Just kind of to explain the process, I think of, like when you kind of, after you write the contract and what happens and on, the ongoing.
Absolutely.
Okay, that sounds great.
Okay.
Great.
Close out 4 days.
All right.
All
Right,
right.
Realty Club, it's so nice to meet all of
We
you.
are finished with our Thursday afternoon Realty Talks for today. Thank you guys for carving out the time to join us. We are in the Upper Marlboro office and we're excited to have our Velocity team with us here today. Not sure how long they're gonna hang around, but if you're in the area and you were on your way, stop on by. Otherwise, we'll see you this evening for our Thursday evening mastermind. Have a great rest of the day, everybody. Well, we're gonna wait just a moment. Mr. Porter has something in store for us.
Hello, everybody. So, I don't know why these people in here always laughing at me. But we had a wonderful kickoff meeting this year, and we were trying to present certain people with certain things, but they didn't want to show up at the meeting, but it's glad that they're here today. So Glennis, if you can come up at this time. We have a special award that we want to give to Miss Glennis. We presented it to her online. And y'all better take a picture. You might not never see
You
Glennis.
wanna thank me? No. Like Slim Dog did.
Seeing Glennis is like seeing a unicorn
Yes.
with the Sasquatch riding.
I see you all the
I
time.
know, but we didn't meet Glennis till about 5 years after we had been working with her like every day. But this award is a special award from Porterhouse to you, and nobody else will ever get this award because it's for you. And it's called, we honor you for your passion to nurture us. And the story behind that real quick is that, like I said, we didn't know Glennis. I mean, we knew Glennis, we worked with her every day, but we had never seen her on the phone. We were sending her deals, and she just called us out of the blue one day and was like, if you guys ever wanted to open up a real estate company, I would love to go in business with you. And we were like, who told her we were going to open up a real estate business? But she was right on point.
But you know, the funny thing is, I didn't really know them. Because I was in partnership with another person when I had my own title company, and Jasmine and Shay were used to dealing with her all the time. But she and I had severed our partnership, and she was like, this client, that client, this client, that client. I was like, I'm going after this one right here. I called them up, and there was like no question with them. They were like, because my mother used to be a settlement officer. And they were like, we love your mom and da-da-da. Well, they didn't know it was my mom.
Nope.
They were like, we love Margaret. So we've been together ever since.
And when we went to that meeting, she decided to donate all of our computers when we opened up. I need some more stuff. And she gave us our copy machine. So thank you. Thank you. And her husband owns a wonderful barbecue restaurant called the Pit Stop. If you haven't been there, you need to go. And if you were at and if you were at our 5th anniversary, she gave all the Porterhouse agents a gift card. So make sure you use them. Thank you. All right. See y'all and tonight.
All right, guys, we're gonna let you go for the day. Have a great evening and we will see, have a great day and we'll see you this evening in our Thursday evening mastermind.